Proud supporters of Africa this week. Engine, with us, you are number one.
World Health Day with a series of interviews on global healthcare and Africa's pharmaceutical industry. We spoke to Sven Beil, who's the global healthcare executive at the audit company KPMG.
They've made this the theme of the World Health Organization's Day today. Yeah. What does it mean? Essentially, what we're talking about here is the resistance to antibiotics. And why this is so important is that it demonstrates that today healthcare is more global than ever before. Before, when you think about significant contagions that have traveled the world, they've done so over many months or perhaps even years. Today, though, we know the story of some of the most recent contagions that have come through, whether they come from Asia or South America or elsewhere, have come very, very quickly. Airline travel, the shipments of goods, logistics have all meant that we're far more interconnected. Right. And what it really means is that it's incredibly important for us to have grip on resistance bacterias that will become challenging and difficult to treat with our current stock of pharmaceuticals.
I mean, obviously Africa is the bugbear in this situation. We're always seen as the continent most susceptible to disease, to destruction, to all sorts of problems. Has that changed in any way?
I wouldn't just say this is an African problem. I would say that this is a global problem, and here's why. It's that we see many different strains of antibacterial or strains of cases in where our current stock of pharmaceuticals are unable or unsuccessful and able to treat those. We have that in Western hospitals as well. This is essentially what the story of hospital-borne infections are about, or MRSAs, or C. difficile. So those are examples of cases in many hospitals around the world where we're treating those. And to the extent that today we've been able to treat them successfully. The risk, of course, is that we don't invest in pharmaceutical research. The risk, of course, is that we don't have proper primary care. The risk, of course, is our over-reliance on using our medications, and as a result, that builds up a resistance, and that resistance will then make these drugs.
Why is there this deficit in research? Apparently, in this area of research on antibiotics, for instance, only 2 major pharmaceuticals are leading the way.
There's a combination of things, to be quite truthful. The first is that different governments have different policies on primary research, and to a very large extent this is about basic primary research, and that isn't always necessarily picked up by industry. And in those governments around the world that fund basic primary research will be in a much better stead for that. The second is that questions obviously around patent and patent rights, but whether or not the pharmaceutical industry believes that they'll be able to recoup the potential significant investment in making the types of investments that they need to do around research and development, in trading off that against many other drugs. Right. And lastly, the question about the market. Just really how big is that market? And so how does that get rewarded?
Staying with matters on World Health Day, we looked at Nigeria's fledgling pharmaceutical industry. We spoke to Sam Ohiwabonwa, who's the CEO of Nemeth Pharmaceuticals.
I do know that we would like to say that for many years there were challenges in the pharmaceutical industry which led to some lack of interest in investment or reinvestment in the sector in the country. But we have seen some change in the recent months. Things are beginning to look a little bit better, especially with what government is doing in trying to provide some funding and support to manufacturers generally. And also we are expecting that the government is going to improve on its local purchase or patronage of the pharmaceutical industry. We believe that that is helping to cause a rethink and a new wave of interest in the industry.
That'll do it for Africa this week, a weekly roundup of leading events on the African continent. Thank you so much for your time.